On the internet.
Hey,
There we go.
everybody's here.
I think so.
It's cardboard party. Cool. What would you
Transition.
Yeah.
I'll just say the word transition.
Yeah.
And then we'll just
That
go
was
with
very
that.
staccato of us. Let's just get straight into this. Okay. Ready to roll? Everybody's got their info in front of them. All right.
Maybe.
More or less. Well, we'll
More
see what
or
happens.
less.
All right. Welcome to Cardboard Conjecture. I'm your host, Norm.
And I'm Ryan.
And on this episode, games of late, some news. And Ryan, can you hear what's coming? Tell us what's coming.
I think it's coming. It's the hype train, and we've got the friend of the show here. We got Chad McCallum from Of Dice and Men. Wait,
Hey, everyone.
Of underscore dice
Oh.
underscore.
I knew that was going to come up. You can 100% blame Ryan for that. Ryan from our show.
Yeah.
Just the worst.
We'll blame both of them. It'll cover both bases.
That's fair. That's fair.
All right.
Perfect.
Cool. Coming back in. And we're back. This is Cardboard Conjecture. Let's get into some games of late. And why don't we start with Chad of our provincial compatriot podcast of Dice and Men. What have you been playing of late?
Down here in the very far away city of Regina, Saskatchewan, I had a board game weekend with my friends not too long ago, and we played a whole bunch of games. We got some classics out like Puerto Rico and Power Grid. We got some newer games out. It was a blast. We had a solid 24 hours. But one game that came up in previous game sessions, and the host requested I bring it back, is a game called We're Doomed. It's published by Breaking Games. It's kind of a party game, a little bit more on the serious edge, but not really. It's all over the place. The concept of the game is everyone plays a nation, so you're a democracy or a theocracy or a bunch of other things, and Earth is doomed. We're doomed. There's nothing we can do. We have to get off of Earth. So as a bunch of the leading nations, we decide we should build a rocket ship and then just fly off to safety. So the game is a real-time 10-minute game in which everyone gets to take a turn doing you can either get resources or get influence or steal resources from another player, or if you have enough resources you can actually nuke another player and remove them from the game entirely. So everyone takes their chance, or everyone takes their action around the table, and then at the end of every round there's the project, which is the empty game box in the middle of the table with this big awesome hourglass timer on it, and you have the option of putting as much resources into the project, which is this rocket ship, as you want. And then every round, whoever contributes the most resources gets to be the first player for the next round. But they also get an event card. And this is where the game gets crazy, because the event cards are all over the place. Some of them are private events that you can trigger at any point that going forward. Some of them are public events, like everyone around the table has to make a new national anthem for their nation and sing it before you can proceed with the course of the game. So there's a bunch of random events that slow the game down, and like everyone's trying to rush through it because you only have 10 minutes to do this thing. And the concept of the game is you have to build this rocket ship, and you have to have a certain number of resources in the box when the timer expires. So you have to have a minimum of 40, and then every 10 you add on top of that builds another seat on the rocket ship. But in addition to that, whoever has the most influence gets dibs on the seats on the rocket ship. So you very much have to balance actually building this thing and gathering enough influence so you can be on the ship when it takes off and the Earth expires or whatever it's doing in that particular version. But it's worth saying, I've probably played this about a dozen times. We've never successfully built the rocket ship. There's been so much crazy things that have happened, and people kind of screwing each other over to get resources and influence, that by the time the timer expires, everyone just explodes with the Earth. So it's a crazy party game. Love it.
And it's how long? It takes 10 minutes?
Yeah, it's a 10-minute real-time game. Yeah.
Oh, I was anxious just listening to you talk about it. And then you start throwing in the improv-y kind of make up your anthem. And I'm thinking, inside 10 minutes, that's chaos and anxiety all rolled up in one.
And the events themselves are like, I don't know if you guys have ever played a game called We Didn't Play Test This at all. It's basically just a random,
I've heard about it, yeah.
A bunch of random cards that they mash together and it kind of works. The events in this game are kind of like that. So you have that singing one. There's another one where you flip it over and it says, the world has renounced religion. The theocracy player just doesn't get to win anymore. They still get to be in the game. They still get to be in the game, so they can collect resources and steal from other people and nuke people if they want, so they can play bitter for the rest of the game.
That's like Python funny.
Right, yeah.
Everything that's being described right here is once we get Games Club going again at high school, this sounds like an absolute blast. Just set it up, let them go at it. We can just sit back, have some popcorn, and watch the chaos ensue. And
it plays 4 to 10 players too, which of course it's a party game, so it supports that higher player count. But yeah, it's a great game. Really enjoy it.
Well, I'm looking this up on BGG, and the cards that the stand-up cards that you have that identify who you are. It looks like they've got some pretty good ideas on how to approach that faction, I guess.
Yeah, so each faction, there's 5 factions in the game, but if you play 10 players, there's 2 of each faction in play. Everyone has the same actions every round, but your particular faction can do one of those actions better. So Democracy might be able to produce 3 instead of 2 or something like that. So there's small tweaks, right?
Now, it's funny because Ryan and I are both like right brain, left brain with his math and my humanities.
Right.
And being the former drama teacher, do you guys kind of take on a little bit of role-playing action when you... Okay.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It's so much more fun when you lean into those roles. And a lot of the times the event cards make you do it. Like there was one event card that said you can't refer to yourself in first person anymore. So you have to say, you had to make up a name for your nation, and then you had to use that name the entire rest of the game.
Thinking is Seinfeld. Jimmy's going down. Jimmy's got a leg injury.
Yeah. It is a ridiculous, silly game. So don't go into it thinking you're playing a serious like civilization game or something like that. But
definite game club. Material.
This is getting added to a cart at some point near future, very near future.
You have just successfully, before we even got into the hype train, got somebody, either one of us, to click on the put it in the cart.
I'll make sure to send you my affiliate link later.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Ryan, you've got something that I love, Capstone. They're just like my new favorite little
they are one of Cardboard Conjecture's favorite companies to talk about lately. So I managed to get my hands on a copy of Imperial Steam, designed by Alexander. I think it's Heimer, something along those lines. I'm apologizing, Alexander.
I always mess that
up. But Imperial Steam, at its heart, it's a train game. I'm not very known for playing train games like 18XX or anything like my heaviest train game that I think that I own is Railways of the World.
I was going to say Ticket to Ride.
Well, but I mean, it was Ticket to Ride for a while.
Stuff. Yeah, you love the crunchy stuff because what is it? Arkwright.
Arkwright's one of my favorite games. I absolutely love it.
So it's not that you go away from that.
No. Yeah. So, and this is definitely not like, don't go into this thinking this is an 18XX type of game. This is much more streamlined version. There's not a lot of things dealing with stocks, even though there's a stock component to the game. It's not like, hey, I'm buying shares of Chad's company and we are driving those prices up and down type of thing.
You don't need a spreadsheet off to the side.
Yeah. We do not need computers. We don't need computers off to the sides.
Yeah.
So my wife and I tried playing this. So here's the keyword: tried playing this past weekend. We set it all up. By the way, it's a table hog. My 3 foot by 5 foot table barely fits most of the components.
Creaking legs and everything.
So it's a big, massive board, and there's sideboards here, and there's contract cards over there, and there's lots of bits and bobs all over the place. And then we started playing it. I watched a John Get Games how-to video because the rule book is really quite long and lots of words. And we got through 4 rounds, and then my wife said, "We need to stop. We need to start over." she's like, is this one of those games where it's like, if I mess up my first few turns, I'm like screwed for the game? And as I'm looking at everything, I'm like, this is one of those games where if you screw up your first few turns, you're boned for the rest of the game. So
this is Food Chain Magnate. Yes, honey.
Basically, yeah.
So we're like, yep. So we took everything back and reset the whole board and everything. Okay, let's go. And then it was a much better experience.
Cool.
The second time once you figured it out.
I thought you were going to say then it was 2 a.m. and then we decided to call it.
Yeah,
But-
little
and
Visine
here's the
drops.
thing: the first 4 rounds went by really, really quickly because this is one of those ones where you gain action points as you. So the first round you only got 2 actions.
Yeah.
Then the next one you only have 3 actions, and then 4 actions type of deal. So you kind of
Ramps
get
up.
more actions as it kind of goes forward. That's also progressing the timeline of the game because the game only lasts for 8 rounds after it's all said and done.
Okay.
And so lots of different things going on. So you have to have it's resource management is probably the best way to put it. You've got the 4 main resources usually you find in these types of games: wood, coal, iron, and steel type of thing. Or no, not steel, but stone. And you just need those things to lay down tracks, but you also have workers that are experienced enough to build the tracks into the certain city. So like a certain city will say, you need 4 experience to build a track into this city. And I'm looking at my workers and I'm like, oh, I've got 2 level 1 workers. Crap, can't build it this turn. But
nice.
every turn, every worker that you don't use gains experience. So then
That's interesting.
As you don't use them, they're kind of like going to school and getting a little bit more knowledgeable, and then you can use them on later turns. The stock part
That's
of
cool.
this, the stock part about this is that you can gain investors into your company.
Oh, nice.
And then you every now and then, as a free action, you can your investors can buy pieces of your company. So whatever your stock market is for your level, let's say if it's sitting at $90, I can commit an investor and he's going to give you $90 that you can spend right now.
Yeah.
In return, at the end of the game, that investor is going to take 10% of your score at the end of the game.
Your score. That's
Your score. Yeah,
Nice.
because in this game, the score is money. So he's going to take 10% of your money at the end of the game. So if I use 10 investors throughout the game, I will have 0 money at the end of the game, and I will not win.
Yeah.
Which is really crazy because Jen went heavy investors and still managed to win the game, even though she at the end of the game, she still lost. I think she had 4 investors. So she lost 40% of her money and she still beat me.
Oh, wow.
That's impressive.
Well, yeah, because a whole part of this is gaining these contracts. And if you're able to connect from the top right-hand corner to the bottom left-hand corner, there's a special city that if you're able to connect to that, you can score contracts. And if you don't connect to that, well, if you've taken contracts, you lose the amount of money that's on the contracts. And I did not but I didn't go contracts. I wasn't heavily invested. I was more like delivering goods to get my money.
Yeah, okay.
So many things going on in this game. Many things.
It sounds kind of sandboxy when it comes to.
And here's the thing: at 2-player, it was less than 90 minutes.
Oh, that's not bad.
Everything that I just described is going on
okay.
was 90 minutes in our 2-player game. And then on the box it says up to 2 hours. So add a couple people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, that first half of the game is going by really quickly. Really, really quickly. And turn order is important. Turn order is important in these games because there's so many times she beat me to a rail line. And if somebody beats you to a rail line and you want to connect, you have to start paying them money to build next to their lines. So there's so many times where she beat me on that, and then so many little things.
That's one of my biggest rules when it comes to games. If there's an initiative track, then initiative's important.
Right.
Usually.
Yeah.
If they go out of their way to illustrate that, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be something.
If the graphic artist puts circles down, there's a reason.
Yeah. Right. And like most of these delivery spots, there's only room for like 1 or 2 of the type of goods. So you kind of have to weasel your way in, get in there really, really quickly. So Imperial Steam, we're going to play it a couple more times this week because I want to actually do a review of this. This is actually, there's a lot going on in this thing, and there's a lot to like, and there's a lot of fiddliness in this one as well.
Yeah.
out the foreshadowing is that the setup, when I explained that it takes the setup on this game is a bear. It needs an insert. It
It's
needs
half
some
your
sort of
half your playtime right there. Just
Yeah,
getting it on the table.
yeah.
Insert
This
time.
needs a custom insert. So I'm waiting on the aftermarket. Who's going to come up with the first one?
Come on, folded space. Get it. Let's go.
Well, this has got
Get
like
on
that
it. Come on.
Arkwright that you played Arkwright, right, Norm?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Remember all the little guys that go on like that factory board?
Those little pitons or whatever. Yeah.
You have to kind of do the same thing with the goods in this game. There's like a section of the board where there's like, I don't know, 70 little cubes you got to place on this little thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could get annoying.
Okay.
Super annoying. And then depending on your player count, it's a different set of tiles you place out on the board depending on your player count. Like there's a 3-player stack of tiles and there's a 2-player stack of tiles, and it's the same amount of tiles, just that what the tiles say on them
Just different.
it's just
different
a little
ones,
bit. It's just a little bit different.
Cool.
So,
Well-
lots going on. Imperial Steam. If you're a heavy economic Euro type of person that likes trains, this might be something you might want to check out. There's not a lot of availability right now in Canada for this one. Some of the online retailers, that's where I got mine. I got mine off of 401
Right.
games, but I haven't seen
Because
it
you had the
locally yet.
froth. You had the
I had
froth.
the
going
froth.
on.
Had to get there. Had to get there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I got to play one of my favorite games, and I'm sure both you guys have a favorite game that you've never won.
I have several.
Several.
I got to play Kemet again. I haven't played Kemet in so long. I've got and not the brand new one that came out, the Kickstarter, Envy, Subnote Envy. But I have the original with a nice insert and the whole thing, right? With I think the SETI expansion, but we just played base game because there was a couple new players to it, and so for a quick explanation, Kemet is like you're an Egyptian tribe, and it's minis on a map, and the objective, like everyone's like, oh, we don't like take that. I hate take that in a game where there's not supposed to be, there shouldn't be take that, but this is a game where it's all about the knife fight out in the open. You get points for engaging, and if you win a battle, you get a point. And depending on what game you're playing, it's a race to 8 or 10 points. And the very cool thing I love about this game is it's a very tight map, which encourages this like, as we always say, it's a knife fight in a phone booth, right? What I love about this game is the exploration to the asymmetry that you can create of your tribes, because everybody starts out with this player kind of tableau, action pyramid, where you have all these multiple different actions that you can take, and you have action point thing, right? You've got 5 discs, but what the asymmetry comes in is these tiles that you can pick up related to the pyramids that you choose to elevate in achievement level. So there's a red, white, and a blue. That's colors of France, isn't it? So the dice are, and this is the best thing I love about dice, when I don't have to roll them and they don't have to hate me. The numbers on the dice just represent level 1 pyramid, level 2, which reflect the levels that you can get on these tiles that you can purchase to asymmetrically ramp up out of control, overpowered, insane kind of thing. But it's balanced because everybody else is overpowered. Everybody else has, I've got, Hulk power, but Achilles vulnerability, but you just need to find it, right?
Yeah.
And the part is, you better find it quick, because it's a race to 8 points, right? If you can hold a temple, you get a point. If you get kicked out, you got to hand that point over. So it's so swingy in regards to, hey, they're in lead. Oh, but guess what? And if you have a pyramid that achieves a level 4, you get a point. But if you go in and invade that person's pyramid, you can take that point away. So there's no kind of guarantee of what you're going to accomplish when you're setting out to, strategically create a win situation. So yeah.
I remember playing this once, and I totally misunderstood the point of getting to 8 points or whatever we were playing to, because I thought
You went on the defense or something?
No,
or?
I thought that once you get to 8 points, it automatically ends, like kind of like a scythe type of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I got my 8th point and I win. And then you're like, no, you have to hold it until the end of the round. I was like,
got to get to the night phase.
And then I was like, missed that in the explanation, and I got decimated because I had no defense or anything that left over.
And you know what? I remember that game, and I remember Adam was there, and I think Dave was there, and I looked at both of them, and they're like, I wasn't going to mention it to him. It's like, come on, you guys. It's like, no way.
But
that's kind of a key detail, right?
Yeah.
That's just residual effect of how much I have influenced Twilight Imperium games.
Oh, yeah.
They're just like, we're not saying anything.
Oh, well, yeah. I think if you're right, the chronology is exactly matching Adam's kind of.
Everything revolves around that one Twilight Imperium weekend. That no one trusts Ryan anymore in any game. Is like, this game has no player interaction. Why are you hating on me?
Yeah. So, Chad, have you played Kemet?
Yeah, I played the original version. Like you were talking about. I haven't played the Kickstarter yet. I don't like a lot of area control games, but I did like that one because, like you were saying, there's such a focus on attacking and aggression. There's not really a place, or it doesn't make sense for anyone to turtle and just kind of hold their defenses and hope they win.
There's really no Australia that you can turtle up in.
Right, exactly. You have to be forward. The real wall I ran into with it, and I think it goes away once you play more and more with the same group, is like you're saying, there's something like 48 different tiles you can power up with. There's just this wall. When you set up the game, you basically set up a quarter of your table for all these little tile powers you can choose from, which is great. Lots of variability, lots of different ways you can go with your strategy. But as a new player looking at that big, wall of tiles, it's hard to like get a grasp of where I should go. And it's almost like
things connect. Yeah.
Right. It's like that paradox of choice, right? Like you have so many options in front of you, you can't pick one.
I was just visualizing standing at an ice cream shop going, I just want one. I don't want 100. Exactly. I just want, give me 3 picks. Right.
Yeah.
So I totally understand that.
Yeah. But overall, it's a great game. I really like the focus on attacking, and it kind of, especially if you're not comfortable in those area control games of being the aggressor, because it's a certain type of personality that really goes for that. It kind of forces you into it, which I found really neat.
And there's sneaky stuff you can do in the battles where you can just retreat and not allow the person to get a victory. And they're like, hey, you can get back here. I need this point. You're like, bye.
Nah, I'm good.
Yeah. Right. And the special minis that you can get that are like the big sphinxes and stuff. Again, rule breakers. And it's crazy. Yeah. So
love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That's Kemet. And I think that's part of that trilogy they talk about with Inish and Cyclades.
Right. Yeah.
That the Matago kind of.
Yeah. I've played all 3. They're all great games in their own right. And I think there's even a crossover between Cyclades and Kemet as well. Like you can get an expansion where you can use the monsters in one and the other and type something like that. But
cool.
Great games.
Sweet. All right. So we'll take a little break, come back in. Do we want to do some news, or do we just want to go to the news? Just a quick run through?
I'm interested to see what this top 6 family games.
Let's do the top 6.
Yeah, let's do that one. Okay, coming back in. And we're back. This is Cardboard Conjecture. We're going to go into some news. Ryan, take us away. What do we got for some news?
Well, you snuck into the show notes here when I wasn't looking at one point in time. You mentioned that BGG's got top 6 family games for the 2021 holiday season. So it's like the 2021 BGG holiday gift guide. And it's a video. I thought it was an actual like text list.
If you click on the link, it brings you to their Twitter feed, and there's a banner, and I'll list the games for you guys because I can see that right in front of me. And then
if I can look at if I actually looked at the picture. this works. Okay.
We got there.
Go for it, Norm.
No, take it away. I just saw you going. I'm in a tech situation. I need IT. Is there an IT to help
this
me?
this is real. This is real time. Ryan goofing up, folks. Okay,
Makes for good entertainment.
right? Okay, so top 6 family board games, and these are not 2021 releases.
But just
I
to
noticed,
play.
I noticed
Yeah.
that. Yeah, just I like these kind of lists. Bring some of the things back because Norm's favorite game is on
I have
here.
an objection of one of them on this list.
Norm's favorite game, Splendor, is on this list.
I don't know how I feel about that, but okay.
Okay, yay.
Let's go.
All right.
Well,
So-
Splendor's good for what it is.
I'll,
what it
I'll give you
is.
that.
Splendor-
It's a mechanism.
Splendor is a good family game. I will give it that.
Yes,
But you'll play
Perfect.
it twice and then move on, right?
It hits the title.
or you'll play it 100 times like my wife and I have.
All right.
But I mean, that's
No
the thing
judgment.
that's the thing with games. If it scratches that itch in your brain, so be it. Right.
I'm interested in Marvel Splendor because apparently
Yeah.
it's supposed to add a couple things. It adds like
Okay.
a new gem, so it adds like a new color to it. And
Did you say a theme?
oh, jeez.
Sorry, did I say that out loud? Oops.
Okay, so Splendor's one of the top 6 family
Yeah,
games. Okay, yeah.
a good family title. Absolutely.
Azul is on here because Azul makes every single list ever
Of course.
published ever since it came in its
Well,
inception.
When there's 20 different Azuls, you're bound to be on all the lists, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
conquer by diffusion.
Yeah, and
Right.
it looks like they have just the original
Yeah.
version that's on here. I can accept that. It's a pretty good game. My son Regan, he's 6. He's played Azul with us. He's grasped the concept of being able to do with it. So definitely fits
I've
in this
introduced
category.
I've introduced Azul to my wife, my kids who are 7, and my in-laws. They all love it. My wife asks for it constantly, so it's definitely a game that those groups can enjoy for sure.
What I appreciate the most of it is the tactile of the components. You just
The Jolly Rancher
yeah.
candies,
they're just so much. Yeah, they're appealing. Yeah.
They're so edible.
Yeah.
right? But those are the 2 games that I have experience with. Norm has talked about Cascadia on the show before.
Yeah. That's
all you got is yep.
Yeah. No, I didn't want to interrupt you. Cascadia is such a really cool tile placement. It kind of stems from the Calico idea where you take a tile and you put it into a pattern abstract kind of generating thing. And then Cascadia takes it to the next level where you have animals within this habitat of these patterns that you're creating. And I often refer to it like tiny towns, that you've got these recipes that you're trying to build in reference to the animals. And it has a simple rule set. I think, you know what, much like Splendor and Azul, very simple rule set, very fast understanding, but then take your time to grasp the depth that can be behind this game. You can play it at a surface level of just pulling levers and pushing buttons, or you can get really deep into looking at what your choices are and manipulating as best you can with some of the wild pieces kind of thing. So yeah, this is appealing on a whole range of levels of play and expertise. So yeah.
Yeah, Cascadia, I haven't played it myself, but it was the darling of Twitter for a solid 2 or 3 weeks. Everyone and their dog were posting pictures of that game, and it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
And it sounds like the theme is really kind of appealing, but like neutral, so a lot of people would take to it, right?
Yeah.
It's animals in a forest. You can't go wrong with it.
And that's by another Cardboard Conjecture favorite, Flat Out Games.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They've been
Perfect.
doing some great titles. And that's out of that list. That's the only one I played. So you guys are up to bat with the others.
Okay, we got Sheepy Time. Sheepy Time? Is that what it is? Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
Never
absolutely.
heard of this thing.
I have heard of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I haven't played it, and
Yeah.
the most I could tell you is random Twitter posts that I've seen, but I've heard great things about it. So
Here's the thing that I'm looking at right now. It's AEG. I have absolute confidence and faith in a lot of products they
usually
put out.
put out good stuff.
So for me, right there, to be like looking in the music industry, going, hey, yeah, this is this whatever band puts out an album, yeah, you're gonna get a good quality, content. So that's about as much as I got for that. It looks very family friendly.
Okay, that's the 2021 release that's on this list.
Okay.
Yeah,
We're
you
so
are one of
behind
the
times in
You are
Canada.
one of the dream sheep, the sheep that people count in order to drift off to dreamland. Each time you jump the fence, you help your person fall asleep easier. But the nightmares that haunt these dreams threaten a rude awakening.
There's the twist, right?
There's the twist.
Yeah.
Like Legos in the carpet in the middle of the night. That's
That is
exactly.
exactly a nightmare.
Or D4s on the ground as you're trying to. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Who forgot to put Kemet away?
Yeah, exactly. Come on.
What's this other one? This Coatl?
Kotal. I think that is a central. I don't want to get too far off, but I'm looking at the art and I'm getting this kind of Mayan kind of Central America culture popping out right there.
The components of this game look out of this world.
If you're on the page, give us a picture.
There's like little like plastic like dragon heads, and you're attaching like body segments.
Oh, neat.
To the dragon heads, and there's like looks like some pattern building that you're doing here, and some maybe some contract fulfillment. Interesting.
You had me sold on the dragon pattern matching.
Yeah,
I'm all over it. That's another game I've heard name dropped several times in the past few months on Twitter, but yeah, I don't know much about it myself.
Well, this thing looks fantastic. This looks like a family game.
Yeah,
that the kids will just pick up the pieces and start just playing with them and stuff like
and
that.
Just engage,
making dragons and whatnot.
Well,
okay,
and you know what?
Okay, I might have to just on the aesthetic. I have to check this
cart.
one out. Put it in the cart.
Put it in the cart.
Put it in the cart.
The last one, if you're keying on the whole family thing, the last one's a dinosaur game. It's Draftosaurus.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've played that one.
Yeah. Have you played it? Yeah,
I have played
that.
It's actually it is on Board Game Arena, so it is playable on there. But yeah, it's very much it's a drafting game. Except I've only played it on Board Game Arena, but I think what happens is you pass around handfuls of dinosaur meeples.
Okay.
That's how they illustrated it on Board Game Arena. And then just like any drafting game like Seven Wonders or Sushi Go or anything like that, you'll pick from the handful of meeples that you're given what dinosaur you want to put in your park. And then the park itself is almost like a roll and write sheet, except you're placing these meeples on it.
Okay.
And then each area has different scoring conditions. So if you're the only T-Rex in the park, you might want to put it in a particular area, and that'll get you the most points for that section. Then you want to go for triplets in another part of the park, and that's based on, the dinosaurs that are getting passed around every round. It's a fun little drafting game. I'd put it kind of on the same level as like a Sushi Go type of gameplay, but you're passing around dinosaur meeples, right? So that extra point for that for sure.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at the pictures and again, colorful, vibrant, and dinosaurs.
It plays nice and quick too. Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, it's probably like a 20-minute game.
Oh man, I'm spending lots of money tonight. I'm predicting it right now.
This is the hype train, right?
This one looks fantastic too.
Mm-hmm.
So you would actually be physically. I can see this physically passing these meeples around the table. Perfect COVID game.
Oh, for sure.
Don't sneeze into the bag, please.
Just get your hand sanitizer.
Yeah. Every time you pass the meeples,
just basically squirt Purell into the bag and shake it up. There we go.
There you go.
Cool. Well, that's a good round.
That was voted by 1 million geeks have spoken.
Nice.
Yeah.
These are the top 6 family board games of the 2021 holiday season.
Woo.
Sounds like some solid recommendations. And I think most of those games are at a very decent price point as well. So availability,
which makes them family friendly. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, Draftosaurus and Kotal got my attention.
Yep.
100%.
Nice. All right, cool. Okay, let's come back in and let's get some. I'm so excited for the hype train. All right. And we are coming back into one of my favorite segments on Cardboard Conjecture. It's the hype train. Ryan, why don't you tell us what's going on, what the hype train's about, and let us know who we've got. Let us
rolling
know
rolling into the station this week is Chad from _dice_ of Dice and Men.
Yes.
Welcome, Chad.
That is our Twitter handle. If people are missing the joke, Ryan back in the day, we're like, hey, we should do a podcast. Ryan, you're in charge of registering our Twitter handle. He's like, well, of Dice and Men was taken, so I just threw a bunch of underscores in there. I guess it's fine. We've had to live with it ever since. But yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I'm really excited to hype up some of my games here.
Cool. Perfect. Yeah, and if people probably don't even know, of Dice and Men is a podcast in the sister city of Saskatoon here in Saskatchewan, Regina, Saskatchewan. Really strong representation of the board gaming Canadian community here in Saskatchewan right here on this show. This is like, other than what was it, Board on the Air, also in Saskatoon here. Yeah, it's like the trifecta of board gaming podcast.
Definitely.
Of Western Canada here.
We're like the Prairie to Bermuda Triangle, eh?
That's fairly accurate. You get lost somewhere around Davidson. It's crazy.
Yeah. How did I pop out in Vegreville?
And people listening from Saskatchewan know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, gotta stop for some cinnamon buns on the way to Regina.
What do you mean there's no services in Bethune? All right, Chad. So what you got for us on the hype train tonight?
So I took it upon myself to put some restrictions on myself, because I find I work a little bit better if it's not just free form. Because I was talking to Norm, and like, okay, like, do you want games still in print? What do you want? He's like, whatever you want.
Yeah.
So I looked at my list, and what I actually did was, on Board Game Geek, if you rate your games, there's a section in the stats of your profile that says your most overrated or underrated, or biggest disparity in your rating. So I picked 2 of my games that I feel are really good, and on average, most people don't think they're good. So I want to hype them up. I want to get people excited.
Yeah.
And then I cut it down.
Very definition of the hype train.
And then I cut it down.
Approach.
Yeah. And then I cut it down to games that are still in print, because there's a few on that list that I'd hate to get you guys all hyped up, and then you just can't buy them anywhere, right? So the 2 games I picked are Dark Souls, the card game, not the board game, the card game, and Dawn of Peacemakers. Have you guys heard of either of those ones?
I've heard of Dark Souls, the board game. Didn't realize that there was actually a card game associated with it. And then Dawn of the Peacemakers does sound like something I have heard of.
Right.
And I can see Norm is vigorously Googling
in the background.
Oh yeah, I'm like Board Game Geek search engine right now. So what do you want to talk about first?
I'll start with Dark Souls. So Dark Souls, the card game, is published by Steamforged Games, which is the same company that did the Dark Souls board game Kickstarter. And that was a huge one. A lot of people, based on the video game IP, were all into it, because Dark Souls has a huge fan base as far as the video game is concerned. And the board game fell a little short, I think, for a lot of people. It was way longer than it should have been. There was way more randomness to it than people expected, especially coming into the board, or from the video game into the board game. You're kind of expecting a certain thing, and I don't think a lot of people got that. But at the same time, Steamforged took the license, I guess, and made this card game. I don't think they put it on Kickstarter. I think they just went straight to press with it. And it's a lot of the same concepts. And personally, I actually don't like the Dark Souls video games. They're extremely hard, extremely difficult. I don't have time for that. But the card game really speaks to me. So it's kind of a deck construction game. So when you start the game, you get a character deck. So you can pick the assassin or the warrior, a lot of the same types from the video game. And you get a deck of about 30 cards or so. And they have stamina on them, and then weapons and armor and equipment and stuff like that. And the point of the game is you'll pick one of a few various maps that comes in the box. They have 2 big scary bosses. You have to defeat both of them within 5 resets. So kind of like the video game, you have this deck of cards and you go through it. And if you ever get to the point where you can't draw a card anymore, it's not like your standard deck builder. You die if you can't draw a card. So it's very much a like almost not quite push your luck, but it's very much you've got to keep an eye on that stamina. And after each fight, you can choose whether you want to keep going and try to get more loot and fight more bad guys and get more experience, which in turn makes you more powerful, or go back to the campfire. So you can only go back to the campfire 5 times, and then the game's done. So it's very much like you have to manage, all the how far you want to go each time you go explore, and how much you can explore and work your stamina and equipment, and still try to defeat these 2 bosses before you're done these 5 resets. It's got a lot of really cool concepts in it. It's very much like a lot of deck builders where you've got this deck of cards, you shuffle, you draw 5, and you play what you can out of it. You don't have to discard, because if you do that, it causes you to lose health effectively.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So there's a lot of strategy to it. You get cool, like you have your starter equipment, but you get cooler and cooler equipment as you defeat bad guys and bosses and stuff like that. And it captures a lot of the essence of the game without making it like a 3, 4, 5 hour experience. You can really play it in probably about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours if you're playing with the full 4-player count. I usually play this with solo or with 2 players. It's got a lot of really cool concepts in it. Another thing I really like about it is it has this positioning board. And if you've played Dark Souls or Demon Souls, so much of the video game is about positioning and dodging and all this other stuff. So they tried to capture that a little bit.
Oh, cool.
In that it's basically a 2x3 grid on your side, but there's also a 2x3 grid on the monster's side. And then you have to be in a certain position to be able to hit them with your equipment, and vice versa. So if you stand in a certain spot, the monsters will get you based on where you're standing and stuff like that. It's co-op. It's got a lot of cool co-op aspects to it, trying to work together to maximize the hands that you guys have in your decks and do the most damage and stuff like that. So it's got so many cool little aspects to it. It has artwork from the video game as well. So if you actually are a fan of the game, you can appreciate some of that. A lot of the monsters and stuff are based on that as well. So many cool little things going on.
Well, I'm looking at you just spoke about artwork. I'm looking at some images, and I've got like a nice shot of somebody's hand of cards. And as far as the graphic style goes, I have no idea about the game. I don't know the IP. I'm just going off of first impression. And it's appealing. And as far as looking at the card information, it's not cluttered, it's balanced. They use a lot. I'm starting to call this standards of card geography, right? Where there's things that are supposed to be in certain places, like on the bottom, that's where your resources or your powers are. And I've not played this, but I look at this and I feel familiar with what I'm seeing on the card. Like I'm not looking at it and going, oh, it's a mess kind of thing.
Right. The graphic design is actually quite clean, and it's a good example of like it makes the game easier to teach, because the cards you see, they might be different. Like you'll have different types of stamina and different types of equipment, but the information is going to be in the same place, and it follows like one of 5 different icons type of thing. So because of that consistency, it makes it actually quite easy, like approachable. There's still a lot going on, but because of that, you don't have to say, oh, if you get this card, it looks this way, and this card looks this way, and you got to remember which is which. It's just, here's your hand of cards, and it's very obvious when you're holding those 5 or 6 cards what you can do, because it's all just laid out so cleanly.
Nice.
So I see images here that has like miniatures. Are they just grabbing the miniatures from the board game and just like supplementing their aesthetic with the card game?
I think so. I have the game and all the expansions, and there's not a mini in sight. So I'm assuming they probably
it's a true card game. Yeah. Don't need the minis. I think these minis do look like they're from the board game.
Yeah.
So folks, if you're looking at this, it's a card game.
Yeah.
It's a card game.
Yeah. And I'm a huge fan of having a card game interpret an action kind of scenario, because I've got Space Hulk Death Angel, the card game, and it's just this straightforward little card game that produces so much anxiety, so much stress, right? So I'm not going to deny the fact that or belittle. It's like, oh, it's just a card game. Sometimes just a card game is huge as far as experience.
You still need to play Arkham Horror, the card game.
Right. Very true. That's a good one as well.
I've got the base game. See, he's doing this to shame me. I've got the base game. I haven't even. It's been sitting.
You haven't even hit
the cellophane's on the deck still. I feel
We'll guilt you into it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Slapshot. I feel shame. Okay, I feel shame.
This thing looks very interesting. So you said it could the how many different like does it come like scenarios or is it just like random setups or
Kind of. So when you start the game, you're kind of doing a set, basically two bosses. There's two bosses that are paired up, and there's a bunch of different combinations you can play them in. But the encounters in between those two bosses are different. They're randomized from a big deck of cards, and it's worth mentioning. There are, I think, two expansions out for this, but the base game comes with a whole bunch of content.
perfect?
The expansions are great. I wouldn't say they're must-haves, but they do add a lot to the game. But the base game itself, there's enough to keep you busy for a while. But yeah, so the encounters you come across when you go to the bosses is going to be different and randomized every time you play, but the bosses themselves, you always play them in pairs effectively. And then the expansions add more pairs of bosses you can encounter. And they come from the video game, of course, but they do a really good job of kind of echoing some of the like key features of the video game bosses in like the card form, like the actions and how they move around the board, and you have to hit this weak spot versus this weak spot and stuff like that. So they do a pretty good job of bringing that theme back into the game.
Now, if you don't have a familiarity with the game, is it going to be an obstacle in settling into the card game version, or is it just pretty much here's the controls and they make sense and just go have fun?
Yeah, I don't think it'll like prevent you from enjoying the game or really like understanding how the gameplay works or anything like that, because it is different enough from how the video game plays. It's just one of those things where like if you've played the game, you'll get that extra little appreciation and like, oh, I know this boss, or oh, I've run into this bad guy before in the video game. He's really hard to kill and stuff like that. So you'll get a bit more thematic connection to it possibly, but I don't think it impedes your gameplay at all.
I'm asking this not to create an obstacle because it's already in my cart. So yeah.
There you go. See, this is why I pick games you can still get.
Yeah, see, so that we can go. All right, deliver this to my work address, please. No,
cool. You don't do that now.
I work at home now, so
yeah.
it's
So the mailman comes at what time again? Or okay.
Oh, I am on a first name basis with that guy. It's crazy.
Cool. Dark Souls, the card game. Nice, nice.
Great game.
I'm just checking to see if it's available locally here.
Okay, here we go. You got to double click on that one. Cool.
Yeah.
Now the next one. I'm bringing
Dawn of Peacemakers is the other game I wanted to bring forward. That's from Snowdale Design, published by Snowdale Design. Okay. The artist and the designer are Sammy Laxo. It's one of those cool things. There's a game you come across every now and then where the designer and the artist and the game developer are basically the same person, and Sammy's the person in this case. They actually just had a pretty successful Kickstarter. It was called Lands of Galzir or something like that. Big adventure game. And if you're familiar with the game Dale of Merchants, those are all designed by the same guy.
Okay.
And all of these games take place in the same universe. So Dawn of Peacemakers is taking place the same place as Dawn of Merchants and stuff like that. So
nice.
They're all very separate games, but they have that same kind of animal personality type of game to them. Dawn of Peacemakers is really neat. Dawn of Peacemakers is a war game where you have two or more opposing factions trying to attack each other, but you don't play as the opposing factions. You play as a peacemaker. So your objective every game is to make sure the factions don't win. They basically have to wear each other out until they give up. You have to manage their morale by doing things like intercepting their orders and changing them or canceling them on the fly, or like convincing one unit to go left instead of right, or weakening a unit so when they actually go into battle they're not as strong and don't do as much damage, things like that. So you play as these little peacemakers, and the armies themselves are NPCs, so they have action decks that they'll just iterate through, and you can take actions to peek to see what upcoming orders are and stuff like that. But if you left them to their own devices, they would fight each other, and one side would win, and you would lose because one side won, which is not the point of the game. The point is to try to wear them down. And yeah, so that alone as a concept was really intriguing to me, which is the main reason why I picked up. But it's also a campaign. It's a 15 mission campaign
Ooh.
with well, not quite legacy, but surprises in the box. It comes with sealed envelopes and boxes and units and stuff that you bring out as you play the campaign. And it also has a co-op, a semi-co-op, and a competitive mode to it. And a lot of games that try to do all of those things at the same time kind of do some of them lackluster and not all of them great. I have not had a bad experience with this game. This is one of the first campaign games, and I've got a dozen of them that are still sitting on the shelf waiting for me to finish them. This is one of the first campaign games I picked up and played front to back because I was so intrigued with the storyline and the mechanics that they introduce every scenario. And then when you're done, they have just battle generators that work really well as well, and terrain generators and stuff like that. There's so much replayability in this box. It's crazy, and it's a really novel concept, which is something I look for in games for sure.
I've not that whole mechanism.
You do not need to say another word. I am sold on this thing.
So, when you were describing that, I'm looking at the screen and I'm laughing because it's like,
because my eyes are going
Ryan's put it in the cart face. Like, there it is. Yeah.
Nice.
The artwork is gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah,
and again, the artist and designer are the same person, which is really impressive. And like, I think he wrote most of the scenario text and stuff like that, so he was very heavily involved in the implementation of this game. The minis are very high quality. Yeah, everything about it is a really good production.
And speaking from the last game, that whole card geography and iconography, I think they do a really great job at simplifying the cards in regards to not having to take too much time interpreting what's going on.
Yeah, so the cards themselves, you have your own deck of cards that you can use for your character. Each player has their own deck, and they have stats on them, and you can see the unit stats. They're all in the same place. It's very much a great example of graphic design, like Dark Souls, the card game is, where there's such consistency to it that it's one of those things you explain it once, and then it's just a thing that you can use going forward as a reference point. Right?
Yeah, we often. I mean, from my instructional design background, throw on the term cognitive load, where I don't need to know exceptions to a simple rule that there's, like French grammar. Here's the rule, and then here's the 25 exceptions to that rule, right?
French was my worst subject in school.
Yeah. I teach it. So yeah, I look at this, and to me, it's a very smooth, fast, easy kind of interpretation.
And it's one of those games, because there's a campaign to it, they get crazier with it, but they can slowly introduce those concepts, right? Yeah. Kind of like the game you were talking about earlier, Ryan, where you start with a smaller number of actions and you can get used to the way that game plays and then really expand your capabilities from there. It's very similar in Dawn of Peacemakers, where the first game or two you're playing with some basic but still really intriguing actions, and then they add capabilities and stuff from there, which is really cool.
Oh man, see, that intrigues me as much as, and I think you're gonna peek on this a bit too. War of Whispers, where you're not fighting, you're the one whispering, manipulating the people doing. So I like that idea of you're not the things in motion. You're the things in between the things in motion. I love that idea.
Yeah, it's very much that. You're still on the map, which War of Whispers, you're kind of taking a backseat and manipulating the events type of thing. But yeah, so it adds another cool aspect where some of the actions you want to take, like, you have to be within a certain range of a unit you want to affect. So in addition to making sure the armies aren't taking each other out, you have to like be positionally aware of where people are going to move and where you are in relation to them. And there might be a bridge you have to cross or defend, or a tower or something like that. So many cool things going on
now,
in this one.
As far, because I don't know this world building environment is with these characters, is there a lot of like fantasy adventure where there's some like you said, area of effect? Is it like magic user stuff, or you have all these different characters that are able to do fantasy-esque kind of
I wouldn't say it goes as far as like fantasy magic type of thing. It's more like your standard kind of medieval units with crossbows and arrows and shields and stuff like that. But they will lean on, because all of the characters in this world are animals of a sort. They will lean on your animal capability.
Oh, nice.
So if you're a bird, you can fly, right? Things like that, and certain creature effects and whatnot really play into it, which is cool.
Okay, so they bridge that idea through the animal ability. Nice.
Right. Yeah.
Which to me right away, and I'm looking at Ryan when I say this, is very encouraging of younger kids to get into these campaign mini kind of games.
I was like, Chad just keeps layering it on where he had me at hello.
Right? It's the hype train. That's what you brought me to do.
Yeah.
Amazing stories, comics in Saskatoon's got 3 copies in stock. It will only have 2 copies in stock as of tomorrow.
They might have 1 copy.
There you go.
Because I don't want to fold as fast as Ryan here. I've got a little bit of spine on this show.
A little bit of resistance.
No, yeah. Now I've not, as far as what are the other games you mentioned that are connected
Dale
to this
of
world
Merchants?
building?
Dale of Merchants, and I think there's 3 of those now, and I think they're all kind of standalone, but they build on each other or whatnot.
And are they all trying to represent different kind of themes of?
I think in Dale of Merchants, I haven't played it myself. I just kind of know.
It sounds like an economics thing, right?
Yeah, it is. It's very much you play as, I think with Dale of Merchants, and I could be entirely wrong on this. I think when you buy a copy of Dale of Merchants, there's 3 or 4 different like decks of animals you can deal with, and you're kind of trading. It's kind of like a economic game type of thing there. And then the other game that was recently kickstarted, it's not published yet, is Lands of Galzir, which is more of a like storybook adventure game.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it actually came out the Kickstarter campaign was the same time as that Iridia Paths We Tread by the designer that did Zia Legends of the Drift System. And both of those were, I was so on the fence on both of those because they were like similar-esque themes, but like the same type of game. It was a really hard decision for sure. But yeah, so I all of those games, I didn't back either of them.
Okay, I was like, don't leave me hanging. Did you back one of them?
Well, my problem there was I'm like, oh, fantasy campaign game, and then I look at my shelf and I'm like, oh, I've got 8 of those I haven't finished yet.
3?
So that was the only reason I didn't pull the trigger on those, because both of those look amazing. But yeah, Dawn of Peacemakers and Lands of Galzir and Dale of Merchants, I believe all 3 of those take place in the same kind of animal sphere.
You got me intrigued with both of these.
If I was going to pick one of the 2 games, which I might pick 2 of the 2 games, but if I were to pick one of the 2 games, I'm pretty sure this one is going to be it. This one you hit so many check boxes of things that I like, and then you hit campaign, and I'm like,
yeah.
Boom.
And pseudo legacy, like you said, you know, yeah.
There's some big twists in that box too. It's like I was genuinely surprised opening some of the components. I'm like, oh, and it happens like mid campaign, like mid level, like in the middle of playing a round of the game. This big thing happens, which is really cool. And like I said, the replayability out of the box. Once you're done with the game, you started as a co-op game, but as you play, you can choose to switch mid campaign if you want. They start introducing competitive and kind of semi co-op hidden trader-esque or like personal objectives is probably a more accurate description of it. But they start introducing some of those goals in mind. So you can come back to the campaign and do the same thing, but now you have to do this on the side of the map while also trying to achieve your objective.
We'll throw in something else to juggle,
And then the success of your campaign affects future parts of the campaign, which is really I love that in campaign games, how your decisions can play forward, like in the Arkham Horror card game. Hint, hint. So yeah, it has some of that in there as well.
Yeah. Cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I have never heard of how everything you described makes this sound like one of the most phenomenal experiences that I'm ever going to have in board gaming. And I'm only hearing about it for the first time tonight. How is that possible?
And that's why we have the hype train. We got to show some love. Got to show some love to these trains and get them some hype.
I mean, there's so many games come out every year, right? It's so easy for some of these good games to fall between the cracks. Like I think the Dark Souls card game just kind of got undercut by the board game, right? Which is a big, expensive, fancy production that didn't do that well. So people probably aren't interested in the side version of that. And Dawn of Peacemakers, I think Snowdale Design is actually self-published by Sammy as well. So a smaller... They're not going to afford the smaller publisher, not going to have the same level of marketing. They're not going to have like Asmodee. Yeah. So I think some of that came to play there as well. But yeah, it's a great game.
Yeah. And I mean, it's that same situation where it's like you have to understand too that if you have a game that is hypeable and that it just sits on your shelf like Arkham Horror, that you have to be. You have to have some compassion.
I don't think Arkham Horror needs very much hype behind it.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the compassion.
It's doing pretty good.
Yeah, I'm talking about the compassion for the guy who hasn't played it yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, shame.
Right.
Yeah,
cool.
I'm looking at BGG stats here. Only 658 people are registered, like owning Dawn of Peacemakers on BGG right now.
That's an atrocity.
Under 1,000 people. We need to change that stat.
We need to fix that. We need to hype this up.
Yeah, it's gonna be at 660 by the end of the week.
These two games are getting updated tickets to first class on the hype train.
There you go.
This is awesome.
I approve.
This is awesome. Cool. So Ryan, I don't even have to ask if you are positively influenced by this episode of the hype train.
Well, I was also positively influenced before we even got to the hype train
in the games of late. Okay, put that one in the cart.
It's beautiful. I loved both of these examples. They were like we said, these are prime examples of what the hype train is supposed to bring forward.
Encourage.
Yeah.
Yay.
Thank you, Chad. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
For lightening my wallet. It's been getting a workout. It's been too heavy lately.
Putting a new ledger input in his Excel spreadsheet of spent games.
Miscellaneous.
You guys want to know the two games I chose not to hype
because
you can't get them?
Yep.
One is Assault on Doomrock, which is a game I try to name drop on our podcast as much as possible.
I want to play that game so much.
Love that game.
Yeah.
Great game. It's got one of the most unique battle systems I've ever played in any board game ever.
Yeah.
And the other one is Health. Go ahead.
I was gonna say the cover of Assault on Doom. That the cover got me immediately looking over the shoulder. Yeah.
That's another self-published one that they actually had a recent Ultimate Edition Kickstarter, but I think it was only in German, because that's where the designer's originally from. So I'm not sure if that's coming over, but hopefully it does, because great game, and more people need to get that game. The other one is Healthy Heart Hospital by the old Victory, or I think they're still around, Victory Point Games.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Another great little unique theme. You're managing an American hospital. The very first time I played that game, it's all about making your hospital not go bankrupt.
There's no socialism here. What's going on?
I played it as, this is a Canadian hospital. We have to treat as many people as possible, as effectively as possible. And I think I lost in the second round.
Yeah.
So it's more about managing your debt load than it is making sure everyone's healthy.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave the social commentary there, but that's another great game that just has so many unique. It's a bag drawing game, which is really cool. So lots of cool things going on.
Ryan, you can't look for those, so don't even bother.
Yeah, they're not around.
Okay.
Cool.
Secondhand market for that.
So Chad, just before we wrap this up, why don't you let everybody know where we can find Of Dice and Man and what's going on with that realm of yours?
Oh, do I have to say the Twitter handle again?
No, you don't have to.
No, this is just because of that.
No, this has come from the guy.
Absolutely should.
This has come from the guy that when he said a website on the air, I actually went HTTP
colon
/
So @of_dice_and_men is our Twitter handle, and it really is our most active kind of social media channel. We post in there a few times a week, kind of the games we've been playing and some of our episodes and stuff. But yeah, we've been a board game podcast for about 5 years. We started on the local radio here and then eventually moved online. And yeah, it's myself, Ryan, and Adam just talking about games we've played lately. We kind of bring up a few topics that we've seen kind of bouncing around the board game Twitter sphere and online and whatnot, and just have fun with it. Really, it's what it comes down to. Our last episode, we talked about, I'm totally going to put myself on the spot. We talked about Beyond the Sun. We actually did. Yeah, it's a great game. It's also on Board Game Arena, which is part of the reason why we talked about it. We did, for the first time, we did a kind of a pre-game and a post-game. We played a game, an actual game of Beyond the Sun in the middle of our podcast. And obviously we'll edit that part out for those that didn't watch us live. But yeah, kind of giving a post-game analysis and some of the reasons we like the game, some of the things that are kind of weird playing on online and whatnot. But yeah, anywhere you can find podcasts, you can definitely hear us. And every now and then we hop in on What You've Been Playing Wednesdays as well. So yeah, definitely have fun over there.
Cool. Well, anything else to add there, Ryan?
Nope, but I think Chad just has to sign us off on the hype train. He has to blow the horn.
All right.
Very beautiful. There we go.
We'll throw in some audio support in post
There
production.
you go. Yeah, much better.
So, we're obviously getting to that point where we always like to appreciate you listening to the podcast and sticking around and hopefully spending some money, Ryan. Right?
Yes, that's the whole point of listening to Cardboard Conjecture is to spend money.
Yeah. Well, that being said, I'm your host, Norm.
And I'm Mr. Moneybags. I mean Ryan.
And thank you to Chad for participating in this episode. And we'll catch you later. Yay! And we're out.
And
Cool.
we're out. I'll fade us out on. I'm always bad on the streaming part. And
Oh, yeah.